Hello and welcome to the One Life Church devotional series where we cover the entire Bible in 20 months. If you'd like to join us on this journey, subscribe on the website below and we will send you a video 5 o'clock every morning to get you going to complete the Bible in 20 months. Now, today's chapters are Deuteronomy 12 and 13, which in essence is about worship. Now, what do you think of when I say worship? Do you think of someone strumming a guitar? Do you think of a band? What do you think of? Now, listen, I only know 3 chords, so I'm not going to demonstrate them for you, but worship is far more than melodies. It includes melodies, it includes what you do in your shower in the morning, but it's far more than that. And this is what God says to the Israelites just before they go into the promised land. He says to them in verse 4, you must not worship the Lord your God in their way. In other words, don't embrace their methodologies, their worship styles, their worship philosophies, and include them in your worship to me. In theology terms, we call that syncretism. Taking the ways of the world, the philosophies of the world, and sort of merging them with our faith and sort of having a blend of the two. Because you might say, well, God, isn't it harmless? It's harmless to start with, but the end of that road is that you're worshiping a different God. In fact, you're probably worshiping the gods of the society of our age. And so he goes on to say, in verse 14, I want you to worship in the place where I've told you and the way that I've told you. And in verse 18, he says, and you are to rejoice before the Lord in everything that you put your hand to, which is an indicator of what was going to be said in Romans chapter 12, that our worship is our bodies presented to God as a living sacrifice. In other words, he's saying there, in everything you put your hand to, worship the Lord. That's more like the worship that the Lord is looking for. And he says, now don't add and don't take away from what I've called you to. What have I called you to? I've called you to wholehearted devotion. Anyway, that's a chapter on worship. But in chapter 13, it moves from worshiping God to worshiping other things, which the Bible calls idolatry. If you set up anything else as more important than God, and you sacrifice to that, whether it's sacrificing your reputation, your time, your energy, your priorities, if it's more important than God, it's called idolatry. And this chapter is hectic. It's basically saying, if anyone causes you to commit idolatry, kill them. Now he's talking about a justice system in a country. He's not talking about individuals, a justice system in a country. He's saying even if it's your mother or your wife or your daughter, they need to be put to death if they're going to make you worship something else. And you say, God, that is absolutely hectic. Well, what do we learn from that? Well, firstly, we learn God takes it very seriously if you cause other people to stumble, cause other people not to worship Jesus. And so you don't want to do that. And secondly, he takes it very seriously that we worship only him, no one else. You see, that's what you've been designed for. You begin to worship something else, not good for you, not good for the people around you. And then we need to understand this too, that Jesus, we're not living in Old Testament times. Jesus came and he was killed for the atheist. He was killed for the false prophet. He was killed for the person who's causing somebody to stumble. Jesus was killed in their place so that even they can repent, even they can turn, even they can say, okay, I'm done with idolatry. You see, this particular chapter sort of gives you the idea that there's no second chance. If someone says, come on, let's stop worshiping God, let's go and do it, let's go worship Baal, let's go do it with their pagan rituals. No second chance. Boom, they killed. But the New Testament and in Jesus, he is the God of the second chance. And Jesus has died for the idolaters, for the false prophets, for those who've made a big blunder in their worship. And this is the great comfort. In Hebrews, the promise that we now live under is that no longer will a man have to teach his neighbor saying, know the Lord, for they'll all know me, from the least to the greatest. God says, look, I'm going to bypass those other intermediaries that used to get in the way between me and you, the priests. You're all going to be priests. You're all going to know me. That's how I want you to worship me. Anyway, as you read these hectic chapters, I trust that it puts you on your knees and it puts you in God's presence. And even if you're like a bullfrog like me, that you begin to worship Him in body and in mind and in your emotions and in your spirit. God bless you.